Ready? All right. This is from the book From Aquarius to Virgo, The Journey of an Air Force Medic. About 6 clicks out from wherever we were, it began. Intense AAA, and it seemed some missile fire as well, that kicked and bucked the C-130 violently, with hits and near misses. It felt like we had hit a barrier of steel, which was bashing itself against us. The sky was on fire and punctuated with a myriad of green tracer lines. This was not good. In fact, it was very, very bad. The pilot began to do a huge spiral descent into what looked like a fire base below us. Through the bumps of fire exploding all around the plane, I could see huge explosions and fire on the ground as well. He was executing a caisson landing, which meant that in a moment he would put the nose down and we would drop out of the sky, just pulling up before reaching the ground. It would be worse than the best of any roller coaster ride anyone had ever been on. As he executed the drop, the plane lurched and seemed to be thrown from the space it previously occupied to a totally new one. We had been hit, not once, but twice, in both engines on the right wing, slightly forward from where I was sitting. Parts of the engine and wing hit the side of the plane with incredible force, cracking the window I was looking out of. This lurched the plane first one way and then the other, as we seemed to be free-falling to the ground. At that moment, although I remained mentally alert and focused, I seemed to jump out of my body from a point somewhere close to my heart. I could see me. I could see the cabin around me and everyone in it clearly, but I could feel nothing physically. Nor could I feel any emotions that I could identify, just a warm sense of heart as we plummeted to the ground. Somehow, the pilot regained some semblance of control of the aircraft, and at the last second pulled the nose up, but not quite enough. We smashed into the outer beginnings of the dirt runway, pancake style, and immediately crushed all of the landing gear. I could hear it tearing away under me and taking huge chunks of the underside of the plane with it. Then the cabin where we were all sitting began to buckle like an accordion. The sound of it was deafening as all the stretchers and aluminum stanchions that they were fastened to bent, popped, and broke free, being thrown like large spears into our part of the cabin at about 80 miles per hour. The impact of the crash had lifted me off the seat and into my fastened harness at such an angle and with such force that I immediately felt my right shoulder disengage from its socket amidst the tearing, shredding, and popping feelings of bone, tendon, and muscle. The pain was indescribable and of an immediate intensity like nothing I'd ever felt before. I lurched back in my seat and threw my head back, screaming in pain. Just then, a stanchion flew past my head and embedded itself 6 inches from me in the cabin wall. Had I not thrown my head back in intense pain at that very moment, it would have taken my head right off. We skidded and screeched to a stop with the sounds of the bending and breaking metal and quickly exfilled the plane. Us through a cabin door that had literally been torn off the plane, and the pilots and navigator by kicking out the emergency cockpit windows. As I unbuckled, I immediately noticed I had no use of my right arm, and my right hand was totally numb, particularly the last 2 fingers. I managed to get unfastened with the help of Snoopy, as we all ran out and I glanced in both directions. On my left, one of the flight crew had broken their leg jumping out of the cockpit and was being dragged away by another crew member. On my right, I saw the mangled rear of the C-130, the tail section bent almost straight up and rammed into the rest of the plane. The right wing was on fire and burning profusely, sending black smoke into the air, making us a nice, easy target. And that we immediately became. Bullets began to fly all around us as we noticed a slit trench several yards away. As I ran toward it, holding my limp and now useless right arm, Snoopy was running slightly in front of me, and another medevac medic was on my right. Snoopy was then hit in the right side, and I could hear the sudden release of air from her lungs as the bullet impacted her. She spun around from the force of it, and I caught her with my left arm. Just as I did, the medic on my right suddenly disappeared, looking like he had been hit in the chest with a sledgehammer, which lifted him up and threw him several feet behind us. He died before he hit the ground. I carried Snoopy in my left arm and fell into the slit trench. The flight crew had made it, as did one other person from my team. I looked back momentarily, just as the plane's wing exploded in flames, engulfing us, for a brief moment, in intense heat and flame. My maroon medic cap was smoldering, and I could smell the odor of burnt flesh as the hair on my face, including my eyebrows and eyelashes, as well as the hair on my lower arms, were singed off. I opened my eyes and saw the burning body of the dead medic. I immediately used my body to cover Snoopy, as another explosion rocked us. This one knocked the air out of my lungs and singed the hair on the back of my head. Her wound turned out to be mostly a flesh wound, but very bloody, which concerned me. She looked up at me and said, "Damn it, are you all right?" Guess there was a word in there, wasn't there? That was Snoopy, always putting others first before her. She noticed my limp arm and immediately knew what had happened with my shoulder. She tried to move to help, but fell back with a groan and intense pain. And if you want to know what happened and how it ended, you have to buy and read the book. Thank you.